Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's show is called Healing Starts with the Farmer. Understand something, okay? They say the secret's in the soil. Well, to a point, but actually the secret is actually in the mind of the farmer. Because if the farmer has dysfunctional beliefs on how he should grow his crop, okay, that mind could become a landmine, which means your soil is contaminated because the farmer's mind got contaminated and he doesn't know what true nature is all about and what growing is all about. We have to go back to the old ways, not cutting corners, not corporate farming, not factory farming. And today, you're going to understand what that's all about and where we need to go if we want to get back to what we would call perfect health, total healing. But before we get started, I would like to talk about taking back your power. Better still, how would you like to learn how to keep it? Our most popular training, okay, at the International Training Institute of Health is called our Personalized Treatment and Training. This training is for couples and families and groups, singles, friends, and those who have caretakers. This training is about learning the most powerful anti-aging body work and how to reverse the aches and pains and the so-called irreversible problems that people are feeling emotionally and physically. And how would you like to master your day from the minute you wake up until you go to bed, becoming the practitioner for your family? This is what our personal treatment and trainings are. And we go all around the world. We send our master trainers to you, or you can come to us and stay in our beautiful Oasis condo, which overlooks the lake and the mountain. And you can come for anywhere for 7 days, okay? You can come for 7 days, up to 33 days, where we do what we call the awakening, all right? And for those of you that are professionals and would like to take your profession to a higher level, or you've always wanted to be a practitioner, understand something. Yes, you do have the intelligence to do it. You do have the mind to do it. And you do have the vision to do it. And understand, don't let money get in the way. And don't let time get in the way. Because our courses do not take years. And they do not take tens of thousands of dollars. And yes, if you've always wanted to become a practitioner, do it. Check us out at itioh.com and unleash the practitioner from within. Okay? So here we go. I would like to introduce Peter Webb. And Peter Webb is what I would like to call the extraordinary farmer, okay? And you're going to find out that no words can tell you how amazing that this man is. And when you're listening, make sure you're taking notes today and understanding what true farming is all about and why we have come so terribly off the path of what we would call true healing. And with me today is my brother, Mr. Marcel Wolfe, Dr. Marcel Wolfe, okay? All right? Hi, Peter.
So yeah, before Peter
Hi,
actually
Marcel.
comes online, I just wanted to say, that Peter, because we actually refer to him as the farmer extraordinaire, and there's a reason why. It's because, as you're going to hear from his story, he was actually tapped into nature from birth. It's a special sort of upbringing that he had, and of course his own creative abilities. He's literally globally now helping people worldwide from something that they not themselves understand, such things as radionics. And so anyways, Peter, we're happy to have you here, and
We're blessed to have you
everybody
here.
wants to hear your story. So, let's start.
Right.
How did it all start in the beginning? At England, right?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, I was born in England just prior to the main outbreak of the Second World War. And we lived on a very, 250-acre farm, which was large in England. And this is before modern agriculture. So we had a 20-horsepower tractor that pulled a two-bottom plow, and my dad plowed all the fields with that. And then to make a seed bed, we used a team of horses, and they went once over with harrows, and we had a seed bed. The products that we grew were very wide. We had malting barley, milling wheat, potatoes, sugar beets, green peas and broad beans, mostly food crops. And we also had a very large amount of animals. We had pigs, we had dairy, we had beef, we had ducks and geese and turkeys and laying birds. All these animals, we marketed everything off the farm. So we did the processing of the birds. And so anyway, what we found out is that we worked with nature. We composted the manure, we spread it on the ground, and the ground was alive. And the animals responded. Now, back the food that we grew, the animals that we fed the grain and products to did not require vitamins and minerals. They were all in the food that we grew. And back then, there was no such thing as cancer. We never heard of most diseases. They didn't exist.
And it's not because they weren't aware of it, right?
Yeah. So anyway, after the war was over, these big companies that were making the bombs switched over to making chemical fertilizers. And of course, my dad was a very progressive man. He always wanted to be in the lead, which he was. He started buying this stuff by the railroad, rail car, and we spread this fertilizer on the ground, and sure, we had a response, but nobody realized that the soil was dying. And as we moved along, year in and year out, the tractor had to get bigger and bigger and bigger till the end we were at 150 horsepower pulling the same plow.
So you went from a 20 horse.
Okay?
You went from a 20 horse
Yeah.
plow to 150 horse. Now I need everyone to get this and understand this, and then Peter's going to explain the why.
Yeah. So then we had a 150 horsepower tractor on a rototiller to break the soil apart where the team of horses did it. I'm afraid I get a little emotional about what I'm talking about.
It's okay,
But
Peter.
anyway, as we were making milling the feed from the grain, we started putting in 10 pounds of vitamins and minerals and some protein. And as we moved along, we got to 60 and 100 pounds going in. As the food became less and less nutritious, we had to put in synthetic vitamins and minerals. So at this time, my father, he said, we were making a lot of money when we were doing things naturally. Now we're not making any money at all. And that's when he said he sold the farm. And from there, that's when I came to Canada, and I took a course on animal nutrition and breeding and genetics at the University of Guelph. And I started my own pig farm at that point. And we took it to it was one of the largest farms east of Toronto. We had 600 sow power to finish, and we were shipping a transport load of pigs every week, about 250 finished hogs.
Every week, 250 hogs every week.
That's right.
Wow.
We had up to at times 8,000 to 10,000 pigs on feed. So we were, and of course, the manure. And at that time, again, when you get a loan, we got a loan from the bank. The bank said you have to have our veterinarian, and they recommended a veterinarian. And of course, they started this. Everything had to be fed antibiotics, and so when we were spreading the manure on the fields, the contractor came and he said, "You got to come and see this." The manure was anaerobic, had no oxygen in it. Every earthworm on the farm came to the top of the ground and died.
Oh my God.
And then the next thing we saw was because the crop was getting sicker, we saw army worms moving in.
What's
And,
that? What's an army worm?
Army worm is a worm that come and eat all the leaves off the plants, and they're like an army. They just sweep across the fields, and there's nothing left but the stalks.
And why do they come? Do they come because the other worms left?
Because the frequency changed.
Whenever you have sick plants, the insects move in to eat them.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
nature's
right. Just
way,
like cancer. Whenever you have,
the wolf. The wolf only takes the sick deer and animals.
Yeah.
The bugs only eat the sick plants.
And the cancer only takes the sick human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I got
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting. Where I grew up in England, there was a brewery called Adams Brewery, and this year they took 30 different brands of beer that they produce, and all of them had glyphosate in it, which is a Roundup chemical made by Monsanto.
Yes.
It's in the food. This is where we have to wake up, because the people are getting sicker and sicker. So anyway, from this whole pig farm, it was a wake-up call that we had to do things differently, and that's when we couldn't make money because of all the input costs of feed and antibiotics and everything else that went into those rations. So we just folded it up, and I went to Alberta as a nutritionist in northern Montana and all of Alberta, and running into a lot of dairy farms that were having problems with their dairy cows. Nobody could figure it out, so I was always thinking outside the box, and that's when I started looking at the geomagnetic lines that crisscross the Earth, and they were attaching to the head rails in the dairy barn. There was the geomagnetic line, which are all over this Earth and all in the atmosphere above us. And they pick up the frequency of electricity. Electricity have a clockwise spin on it. All man-made electrical, whether it's your cell phone, your microwave, and
your alternating current,
all have a plus, which is a clockwise spin. Now, what I learned right away is that coming through the body, because every mineral has a polarity. Some have positive and some have negative. But because of everything being positive, a lot of the minerals weren't available, like your calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium. And the animals were getting progressively sicker, but also where these fields hit the head of the cow, they couldn't reproduce the hormones to let their milk down.
Where what? Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that again? Where the what?
Well, where the magnetic field runs through and hit the head of a cow, it affected her ability to produce hormones to release her milk, because everything in life has this purpose. There's a plus and minus. But anyway,
when you say the head of the cow, are you talking about the brainstem?
Eh?
When you say the head of the cow,
the brainstem, yeah.
So the information is coming into the brainstem.
That's right. So,
okay.
and even right down to the ovaries, if you had this clockwise spin, conception couldn't take place because of the sperm was a minus, so it was canceled out. It never could get to the
so the attraction, literally the electrical attraction,
and this is the interesting thing. Back in the days, cows used to live, produce milk and calves for 10, 12, even 18 years.
Right.
And under today's agriculture, they don't last any more than 2 years.
Wow.
That's the life cycle of a dairy cow.
Wow. And what about
anyway,
what about human beings? Infertility in human beings, well, it's the same thing, correct?
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Same
Got
thing.
it.
So anyway, this is when I developing the electromagnetic balancer system that was designed to bring a balance of polarities, positive and negative, into the and to cancel out the harmful effects of high electricity. But you know, it's crazy because these farmers had put an electric fencer in and they'd ground it to the water lines. So this stuff was going through the water lines too. We opened up a whole new window on how other elements can affect the productivity of livestock. So
when you say that when you say they grounded it to the water lines, they actually like took the wire down into the ground, wrapped it around the actual water line, correct?
That's correct.
All right then.
Yeah.
Just
So
as we
if
do
there
in
was
our
a,
own housing.
No, I
if
want
there was a
everybody to
short-
understand that's listening, okay?
Yeah.
That you can't be messing around with that. You don't do that. Right.
No. So anyway, I came back to Ontario at that point, and that's when I started my own company working with balancing the environment, and we've done that for a long time. Through that process, we've also done other things. We made organic shampoo and organic cream for the skin. We made tokens, a Harmony token, which was somewhat like what we're doing now with the pendants that we're producing. But I started on cleaning lakes, sewage treatment ponds with a Radionics, and it was
Peter,
fascinating because,
before we go any further, there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this show that do not know what Radionics is. Can you just give them a simple explanation of that?
Yeah, Radionics is a box that's been around for probably close to 100 years, and it works on frequencies. Every item on this planet has a frequency. And so over the years, the practitioners have come up with way over 4,000 different frequencies for everything from crops to agriculture to animals to even to people.
Yeah.
And, you know, frequency, it can be put into a carrier, like it could be crystals or water or even air. So what we've been working with this. Anyway, going back when we were hired to start looking at sewage treatment ponds, we were putting in oxygen frequencies into the water from a Radionics machine. And my father, he used to farm by the moon. Everything he did was by the moon. And so we found that the oxygen in the lagoon would drop when there was a full moon, and that's because the bacteria went into a feeding frenzy. It's the same. The moon has a major effect on everything on this planet, in that even the tides, the ocean are controlled by the moon, the rivers, everything.
Right.
And so I looked at this and I said, wait a minute. If we can get oxygen into the bottom of a sewage lagoon, every digestive of every life on this planet needs oxygen.
Right.
And of course, when you look at the modern agriculture, the oxygen is only in the top 12 inches. There's none below that. And the same as the cow's gut. So we started putting in the frequencies of oxygen into the cattle through the water, and immediately we had a big response on the health of the animal. In fact, we built a machine called a water enhancement system made out of stainless steel with crystal balls in it, and they're being marketed in other countries. In South Korea, the farmers with pigs, they noticed a 90% reduction in mortality and 20 days to market sooner with no smell in the manure at all. And this brings it, and this is where I'm trying to bring it back into the human
Yeah, you brought
environment
the
right now.
yeah, you brought the good bacteria numbers back to 85 good, 15% bad, or even better than the way it usually is with farm animals is 90 bad and 10 good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the bottom
by-
line is that you're using
What
frequency.
we do
Yeah.
is, what we have to do is enhance the aerobic bacteria, because the ones that we are using in agriculture are all we have to increase the aerobic. The anaerobic ones are what? They're the fermenters, and they're the ones that carry E. coli, Staphylococcus, strep, and all those other harmful bacteria that show up in the food chain today in lettuce and this kind of and foods that we get.
Yeah. And Peter, if I can say this, for those of you out there, Dr. Otto Warburg, he received the Nobel Prize because of the whole theory of oxygen, and that if you cut the oxygen off of a good bacteria or a cell by 33% for an extended period of time, the bacteria will morph into something and go rogue, and then it start actually attacking the body, becoming an endotoxin. And then with the cells, the cell will actually mutate into a cancer cell because there's not enough oxygen to survive, and it doesn't want to die, so it has to morph.
Yeah. So, and this is where, after a while, I developed another technology called the Revitalizer, which requires no power. It's radionically programmed, so it requires no power. It has no moving parts. It can cover up to 3,000 acres and sequester 50 ton an acre of carbon and put it in the soil. And the one misconception is everybody want to remove carbon. But what they don't understand is if you remove the carbon, then the next gas becomes a dominating gas, which would probably be methane, and then that becomes a problem. This is why in agriculture, you have to bring a balance into everything you do, or everything goes out of balance, and that's when you have major problems.
The circle of life.
So by bringing in all, pardon?
The circle of life.
Yeah. So by bringing all these greenhouse gases, we're able to strip the oxygen molecule, or the electrical molecule of the oxygen coming from space, and put it down 4,000 feet in the ground to clean aquifers and water.
Wow.
So once you start getting a higher level of oxygen in the water, and then above ground, the oxygen actually increases up to 30 parts per million. Normally around the environment, it's about 10 parts per million. So this is what radionics can do. It can enhance everything around us. Now, we're doing big lakes in South Dakota where the fish populations just go crazy. There's so many fish. They used to fish a few weeks in the spring, but now they're fishing all year round. And this, even water, it's having a healthy water with oxygen and hydrogen is another element that is key to life. And so with this Revitalizer, we're increasing yields of crop yields by 40%. But the one thing we noticed is we were able to look at nature again, and whenever you see lightning is nature's way of balancing the Earth's electrical field, because the Earth is a DC current. There's enough electricity in the core of the Earth to power every electrical system on the planet without having to buy electricity. But
right, and Tesla knew that, right? He was trying to
yeah,
develop
so
and give us a form of DC energy that would have cost us next to nothing, but the financiers said, how are we going to make money at this, and basically destroyed it.
yeah,
And so we could have
yeah,
actually had over 100 years, no fossil fuel, no coal, no nuclear, even more superior than even solar or wind. And he was trying to give us that over 100 years ago. And he understood AC because he invented it. And he was actually probably the first person to be electrohypersensitive because he was exposed to it more than anyone else. But being Tesla, he was able to figure out a way of using this energy to heal himself and other people. And before I let you get back there, Peter, this when I'm hear you talking, it just underemphasizes the importance of something like Einstein saying that frequency trumps chemistry, and that frequency is everything, and that it is primary. And so you're working with frequency and working with nature.
yeah,
Victor Schomburger, right? He said,
yeah.
comprehend,
That's
copy,
right,
and cooperate
exactly.
with nature, and that's
Yeah.
what you're doing.
And if I can
So
say
what
something,
we found is
okay, if I can say something, Peter, before you move on, I
yeah,
want
okay.
everybody to understand that what Peter's talking about when it comes to animals and the soil, it's the exact same rules with a human being. So when he's stating something that this is good for the soil or this is good for the animals, understand something. It's not the needle doesn't move very far when it comes to exactly human beings. So when you're listening to this, relate this to yourself. Okay.
Yeah, so what we found out then, by looking at the lightning factor, we were able to duplicate that with radionics and put the positive and negative DC current into the environment. And when we did this, it eliminated all of the insects and bugs off the crops.
Wow.
Farmers were spraying up to 40 to 50 times a year on vegetables. And then when we incorporated this into the system, they didn't have to spray anymore. And we've actually used it for drying the corn crops down on the farms, and the corn crop and the tobacco crops in the barns for the last number of years. But where I'm going is we know we had to bring in the hydrogen, the oxygen, and the plasma, which is plasma is from lightning. That's what the DC current is.
Right.
And if you create that environment, it's like lightning. If lightning strikes, you can smell ozone. And the interesting thing, when you do this, the air is about 78% nitrogen. And as soon as you put that DC charge on the nitrogen, then it was immediately available to the plant. And so you look at the plant in the field. We're looking at the human body too, remember? It harvests the CO2 through photosynthesis. It turns to sugars. The sugars are sent down to the roots for the microbes to break down minerals and supply the minerals and vitamins back into the plant. And they need oxygen. That's why what we're understanding now, that by putting the oxygen deep in the soil, it enhances the health. Now some of the big companies are looking at spraying the microorganisms back on the soil again because they're all gone. And all these things are a cost. And the modern farmers are, it's crazy what they used to need. I mean, we used to have these smaller combines and tractors, but now the tractors are up in the 500,000 and the combines are close to 1 million. The cost of modern agriculture it's not sustainable. We've got to look back at a more efficient way to produce better quality food that stays on the shelf for weeks and weeks without going bad. And this is the food we buy now. It goes bad within a few days. The vegetables do anyway.
Yeah, it's so lacking that in a lot of cases the bugs don't want it themselves.
So anything in nature has an important role. So that's why we have to go back to supporting nature, and then the same thing comes back to the human body. And believe it or not, even grounding, pardon me, grounding is a major important thing, because back years ago, the natives, they wore their moccasins and they were grounded to the ground. And in Africa, the people still don't wear shoes; they walk on the ground. So they're getting the advantage of the grounding in their bodies. So we had to incorporate this grounding into everything we did as far as livestock and crops. And but when you look at the body, there is a definite need for DC current within the human body as a part of support. Well, the oxygen, hydrogen, all those elements come into the human body as a support to health of the body, and they remove waste from the body. So your digestive system, your colon, your heart, your brain, your kidneys all need this DC current to perform the functions more effectively that results in health. And the same thing goes through to livestock, where eggs and meat produce have a higher nutritional amount of nutrients in them. And so that's where we are. Did you want to go on to how we're trying to do this for people now, or?
Yeah, let's let's go from the farm. That's where it all starts. To how are we going to be able to? I mean, you're helping people literally globally, and they call you the next day and say, "How is this possible?" We're seeing less die-off in our livestock, and they're eating less and they're drinking less, but they're healthier. So you've got the correct idea. Now what we need to do is get this out to everybody.
And what also we need to understand, we also need to understand something, is that every frequency is a key, and it's always turning something on or turning something off. And what most people don't get, and only because they're not supposed to get it, is 99.9% of you, and even more of that, is actually frequency based. I mean, it's funny, but we've got 7 billion particles that are all vibrating, not even touching each other, because it's all about frequency. And we're 99% empty space inside of those particles, but we're not. It's all electrical, light, and frequency. And Peter, you've harnessed this idea, and you understand that that's the holy grail of healing.
Yeah, one of the things that we did notice when a cell phone company put up a big tower near a farm, the cows couldn't drink the water because there was an electrical charge on it, and they rapidly went into a health decline and eventually had to be taken out of the barn. Now, at the same time, the microorganisms in the soil, they died off, so the soil became so hard the farmers could barely work it. And this is where we, with all of the cell phone towers around, you can see corn that used to grow, tall and green, and when it started to ripen, would die from the bottom up, moving the nutrients into the grain. But now it doesn't. The corn dies from the top down, and there are no nutrients in the grain, minerals and vitamins. And so this is going right across the board. We're seeing, excuse my throat, a lot of trees are dying all over the countryside because of these cell phone towers. And I got a call last week from people that had got a spruce budworm back in the forest locally, and that's something we haven't heard of for years. The emerald ash borer is wiping out the ash trees. In Europe now, there is a moth that's wiping out all the oak trees, and there's no solution. They spray chemicals on them at night, but these bugs still keep multiplying because the trees are sick. They can't protect themselves.
Yeah.
And this is,
So
we found this
can
out
I
even
say,
with
Peter,
potatoes, where
what's happening here is that the trees are sending out a signal, and the bugs are what I call nature's sanitation department. And they're only
That's
going to
right,
be
you
there
got
if
it.
they've been summoned by that frequency. So whether it's a tree or a human being, if it vibrates below the standard of nature, not man, then it sends in the cleanup crew.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's my biggest concern right now is all of the electrical pollution that's in our environment, and it's going to get ramped up again with the new generation of G5, where they've turned it on now in places like California. All the bees fell out the sky dead, and same in I think it was Sweden when they turned it on. The birds fell out of the sky dead. So this is the future we're looking at.
Well, and also
Considerable amount more.
if I can say this, when the trees die, the fish die, because the trees are what are feeding all the water that the fish live in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, we're seeing this all over the rivers and lakes now. Are so deficient of oxygen that fish can't survive in them, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah, but the good news, Peter, is that you have a way of actually
Turning it around.
turning this around, and rather quickly. It's just about having a more open mind to concepts that people are probably not aware of.
Right. So we have the what we call the revitalizer that can do large parts of the farm, and of course, again, because so much stuff is coming in via satellite now, we had to create a frequency around what we do to block the harmful effects of anything coming from the atmosphere. And so we've gone to one step further now, and we make what we call the egg. It's a crystal glass, and it has to be pure crystal, because if you use anything from Asia, it's so full of lead that could be another health hazard. So with any radionics, it's been well known that you have to be very careful on what you use. You use the purest forms, and that's what we're doing with this egg. It's a glass orb that does everything that we say. It's putting in the oxygen, the hydrogen, the DC current, and actually, as we looked at the human body, we put in vitamins and minerals and proteins. Protein is another element that is really short of now in our diets.
Yeah, the amino acids, they're like they're the foundational block for all cells.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've incorporated that into this system. We also it was originally we were trying to use it for sleep apnea, but we found out that we were having a lot more success with other health problems, and I don't know if we really can discuss them openly, or we may be getting ourselves into a lot of trouble. But to carry it one step further, we made a pendant that you just put around your neck when you leave the house to go wherever you go. It gives you
It's right here,
10
everyone.
feet around your body.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Marcel's showing it right now, Peter. Okay, he's got one around his
Okay.
neck. And I want everybody to know that you can get a pendant, and you can also get an egg for the house, and you can find those all on the Doc of Detox store. Okay, and we will be carrying Peter's inventions, because, well, wait till you start using them and see how it protects you against 5G and Wi-Fi and everything else. Maybe you can go into it a little bit more, Peter. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, we've we've even had to create through frequency cell regeneration, and that's something that is necessary when you get into a lot of the ailments that people have, and because there is a cell die-off in the human body and everything. So it was something we decided we'd put in, but we had one lady with Alzheimer's, and we're not going to make any claims on this, but she, in about 20 days, it went from 60% of her body down to 0. And again, that's, it's, there are so many things that we need, and this is nutrients in the body is one of them. And actually, the biggest thing that we need is really good water. I mean, our body is 75% water. And if we put dirty water in, we're not getting any benefits. But a high oxygenated, high energy water regenerates all the cells in the body, because your body has to detox. And this is one of the things we found that is we're able to do now. We have dairy farmers that they're making more money now than they've ever done before. And the reason we did this is because they were relying on all these supplements that had to be put in to supplement the diet, where once we started growing the crops with healthy crops, those supplements are not needed anymore.
Peter,
and we taught them how.
Peter, can I say something? I just want to, and please hold that thought.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to stop you, but I want everybody to understand something. Everything you eat and everything you drink that goes into the body leaves the body. The only thing that stays in the body is the frequency that was inside and attached to that drink or whatever you ate. So I need you to get this. All the physical of that leaves the body. Only the frequency stays. So understand something. The most powerful thing that will heal the human body is invisible, and the most powerful thing that will destroy the body is invisible. So if you don't understand that everything is about frequency, then I feel for you. Like the one-a-days you see on advertisements. Take your one-a-days. Take your gummies. This stuff is just not even worth taking. It's actually toxic to the body. Understand something. If it's on TV, chances are it's poisoning you. So understand everything is frequency. And this is what Peter's doing, is he's taking the actual frequencies, the highest frequencies of nutrition, and delivering the frequencies, because most people are too sick and too tired to actually absorb this. And even if somebody says there's 100 milligrams of something in this tablet, it doesn't matter. You're not getting it. Unless it gets right down inside the cell, it's not working. And the reality is it's only the frequency that we need to turn you on. Okay.
Yeah. So when you explain to people, that the amount of energy it takes for you to actually process food, to take it from this bulky form down to a molecular level, we used to say that it took the same amount of energy to walk 25 miles as it does to process 3 meals.
3 meals a day.
2 decades ago. Now I just found out in a recent study that it actually takes up to 70% of your biological energy reserved
every day
for that day just to do one meal. So I'm sorry, folks, but 3 meals a day, no, that's good for the food industry.
So understand this, and this is really important. And Peter, I'm going to give it right back to you, okay? Everything starts off with an image, then a thought, and the thought creates a frequency. So remember something, imagination is the greatest thing you'll ever have. And because that's where all frequencies come from. And I'll tell you something, Peter, I'll give it back to you, because if anybody's got an imagination, it's you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the things that I found with my own physical body is I used to have a lot of night dreams and stuff at night, and you'd wake up and you'd start thinking and what would happen is your brain takes a lot of sugar when it's active, so your brain starts demanding sugar. Your liver produces the sugar, but it produces more than you need, and that's where a lot of sugar diabetes come from. Is from the wrong type of sleep that we're getting. We need to go into a deeper sleep than we've ever gone before. Coming back to supplements again, there is a synergy between, we'll say, selenium. To make that work, you have to have vitamin E, and every element has a partner to make it available in our diet. So, but everything comes back into balance, and this is where we have to balance nature, we have to balance ourselves, and good things start happening. That's for sure. You know, I'm no kid anymore. I'm 78 now, and I'm just working as hard as I did when I was in my 30s, and I have no plans of retiring. Once you say, well, I'm going to retire and sit back in a rocking chair, your body starts shutting down real fast.
Yeah, because nature only supports what it deems necessary at the time. So if you decide to become that couch potato, then, you know, there's no purpose to life.
Right. So I hope I've covered everything. I haven't done it in the kind of detail I would if we had a much longer thing. But anyway, I think it's in a way that's simple. You know, we're not making it complicated. What I do realize is that everything is in front of us that we don't see anymore. Like like I say, the beauty of nature and the thunderstorm. So you realize, well, they're part of the nature balancing the soil and balancing the water and everything else. But we also have to, going back to probably one of the most important supplements, if somebody's going to have a supplement, is probiotics in the diet, because those things are so easily killed off in our digestive system. The bacteria and the probiotics is what we need to keep a healthy gut. I mean, a healthy gut and healthy colon is going to be a healthy brain and healthy heart in the long run. Am I going into your territory now?
No, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. So we totally agree.
Okay.
We do use a really good probiotic, and it's very hardy. But we also use a product called Tummy Love that goes in and creates an environment so that those probiotics that mummy's bacteria, because I'm more interested in revitalizing mummy's bacteria than I am trying to put in aliens in there to try to bring it back up. Because we can't, because know that environment dictates everything, right?
Yeah, actually, it was Dr. Bruce Lipton in a lab. You know, he had the 3 stem cells, and he put them in separate petri dishes, creating a different culture in each petri dish. And one became a muscle cell, one became a fat cell, and the other one became a bone cell. And so he knew 40 years ago. And actually, the truth from this petri dish is being expressed in our presentation today. The truth from the soil is the same truth what was in the petri dish. As he said, it's not the DNA, stupid. It's the culture, it's the environment, the supportive environment that actually allows that DNA to express itself positively or negatively. He said it beautifully. He said the DNA is just a blueprint. You can only be read or not read. It's the environment, it's the culture, it's how you respond to that makes the difference.
Yeah, so what we try to... Go ahead.
There is a book out, Weeds Why, and the soil. If you see dandelions, they're trying to pull calcium up to the top. If you see horse's tails or they're trying to pull up silica. Every weed is trying to perform a function of creating a healthy soil, but man comes along and spray them with chemicals and kill them. And this is where our whole agriculture has gotten to now. Man is trying to control nature, not work with nature. If we worked with nature and listened to it, we would be far better off financially and health-wise. You know, that's why they said things that you see and don't understand why they're there are trying to do these functions in the environment. And even with lakes, you see the algae bloom, and that's from too much nitrates and fertilizer in the water. And unfortunately, when that dies off, it becomes toxic. Anyway, I think I've circled everything I can talk about right now.
Yeah, but you know, talking about that, I'd like to just say the same thing is when somebody has a lot of bad bacteria in their digestive tract, they go after the bad bacteria when they should be going after the cause. The bad bacteria are really just trying to be a flagship and tell you that you're off track, just like pain is a GPS, but we can make it into an enemy. And when we do, we're always attacking the human body when we're trying to bring down that. So I think we've lost sight, and we were supposed to lose sight.
Yeah. We certainly lost sight of it. You know, everything, energy is supposed to be created by sugar, but that's not the way it is done in nature.
That's right.
People are consuming way too much sugar.
Yeah. So I think
anyway,
even in the nutritional field, though, Peter, you know, we switch gears. I switched gears 15 years ago. When I look at a supplement or I look at anything, I look at the frequency that's attached to it. You know, I believe, you know, we try to carry more energy medicine nutraceuticals than we do supplements. We don't do supplements. You know, there's always a good story behind the supplement, but it doesn't matter what's in the supplement. It's what frequencies that are attached to it and what frequencies are going to come into the human body and what they're going to do to the body.
One other add-on I never mentioned is that in all our technology, we put in the frequencies of the full moon, the summer solstice sun, and the stars, because in reality, everyone came from the stars, and we should be connected to those elements.
Beautiful. And I want... Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was... Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, Peter, you know, for some people, you're a little bit out there, but the reality is understand something that, you know, you've got a true blue farmer and who understands where life came from. And he also understands where we've got to go to get back to having a true blue life on this planet. And I want everybody to understand something, that we will be carrying Peter's devices on the Doc of Detox store. And also, if you go to Doc of Detox library and you look at what's called the Energy Medicine Guide, you'll be able to watch this video and other videos related to it and information on the amazing works that Peter's involved in. Peter, go ahead, though.
Yeah. Well, you know, I look back to when my father was alive, and he planted on the moon, and he would come to the bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, say, "Boy, we got to go and cut peas." I said, "What for? It's dark." He said, "Well, they won't shell if we cut them now." He knew, you know, he knew when to dehorn a cow where it wouldn't bleed, and all these things are tied back to nature. Right. And this is where my education started. I never thought of it, much of it growing up as a teenager, but as I got older and started looking back and looking forward, I realized that the teachers were always there, but we never listened to them.
Yeah, so you now have a greater appreciation for what your father told you.
And if I can say something here, it's really important that people understand this. You know what? The day that you believe that frequencies and planting by the moon and doing these certain things is voodoo is the day that you're totally lost. Okay? It reminds me of the witch burnings, okay? And you know that the witch burnings, they weren't witches, they were just females that were they were Braveheart females that were teaching their communities about herbs and about nutrition. And that's what the witch burnings are. Everybody needs to wake up out there if you think that you're going to ever have the life that you deserve, and understand, just because you haven't heard it before, just because it scares you because you live in a little tight box like this, that little tight box has become your jail. The only way that you're going to grow, you must grow first consciously, okay? You're only this far from becoming totally healthy and a genius, and it's in between your mind. So those thoughts and those beliefs that you have that are holding you back from absorbing or taking in the information that Peter just gave it to everybody will be the deciding factor on whether or not you're going to live and every day to your full potential. Peter, what do you think?
That's absolutely true. Yep, we have to you know, step back and just listen to what's happening around us. Like, one of the pleasures we get is sitting out on the back porch, listening to the birds sing. And actually,
I do it every morning.
Bringing that back in the morning when the birds sing, the stomonas open up on the plants to take in nutrients, and that's, you know, it's another part of what nature is doing for us. There, you know, it's there, but right now, it's becoming so bad that we have fruit trees, apricot trees and cherry trees, and in the spring there isn't a pollinator bee anywhere to be found. And this is the sad situation that we're looking at within the bees that are doing so much for feeding us and keeping us healthy, but we have no respect for them. I mean,
well, you know, Peter, if I can say this, but, you know what? Everybody would have respect for them, but it's everything is programming. I really believe that, you know, corporations are evil, end of story, and that there's an actual evil entity on this planet, because it seems like there's the good guy and the bad guys, and then the majority of the population that is asleep.
And saying it's just business is no longer acceptable.
No.
Because the costs are just way too high. And we actually we can't even afford it anymore, you know. And people are actually starting to wake up to, hey, it's not delivering what we paid for, you know. And with what we have here with frequency, it can happen so fast. But of course, first of all, you have to have an open mind.
Our health is being kidnapped, and every time we more of it gets kidnapped, we get to go to the store, go to the doctor, go for another treatment. We get to give everybody money. It's, you know what, a person that knows how to create the perfect day from the minute they wake up until they go to bed doesn't need anybody, okay?
No, I had a lady come down that her legs were all swollen and on flames, and she'd been to the hospital and they gave her antibiotics and they didn't do anything, so I just cut a big leaf off an aloe vera plant and she rubbed it on her legs. She said, my God, she said, my legs are cool, and all the flame went out of them. It's what can happen, you know. A natural product is far more powerful than the drugs that everybody is being basically coerced into taking.
Mm-hmm. Peter, can I ask you a question? Would you be open to do a Q&A? Like when we air,
sure.
We're going to air the show, and then we'll give people a week. And when we air the show, we'll give them a week, and then we'll have you come back on, because there's no way in the world that this show is not going to raise questions. Mm-hmm. Okay?
No, it's, you know, it just seeing the crop, like we have dairy farmers that use our technology for growing the crops. And they have cows producing 150 pounds of milk in the early lactation. Yeah, I had one foamy yesterday from Western Ontario. He's only getting 20 pounds of milk, but he'd been convinced to put in 30 parts per million of hydrogen peroxide in his water. And hydrogen peroxide doesn't discern between good bacteria and bad bacteria. It kills them all. So the digestive system was being wiped clean, so it couldn't use the nutrients that they were being fed. They were just passing through them. And this is where we see in all these people with animals, manure smells, it's not necessary. We can eliminate all the smells coming out of livestock facilities, manure. Even one of the things we can do is human waste sewage treatment plants. Using oxygen, we can clean them up with frequencies and oxygen. And there is no smell, and there are no, hydrogen sulfide, pneumonia, and all those other heavy metals are going back into the rivers. This way, they're just consumed or neutralized. You see, everything has a frequency, and if it's got a certain set wave, you can send a reverse out and cancel it out so it doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
it's that easy.
Peter, in previous conversations we've had, you've talked quite a bit about how you can actually take polluted water systems and make some pretty interesting changes. Could you just touch a little bit on that? Because we said earlier, water is so important. So if you could.
Well, we had one situation where they had a fire in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they had to apply fire retardant. And it got into the big Ogallala aquifer, which covers, I think, 11 different states. And through radionics and frequency, we eliminated. We took it right out of the aquifer. In 2 days, it was gone. These are same as we did a 4,000-acre lake in India that was so polluted that people could almost walk on top of it. And in fact, in India, there are lakes that catch fire from the methane coming out of it. But anyway, 15 days, the smell had totally gone. In 2 months, the water was almost drinking standards. But nobody told us there was 55 million liters of raw sewage a day going into that lake, and we were cleaning it up, keeping it almost, and they were boating and canoeing, and
Wow.
People were enjoying the lake, where before they had to wear masks just to drive around it. And these are the kind of things that we're able to do with radionics. Because there's no big dollars to be used, the people, we were just quoting one in Nova Scotia. We could have done it for $5,000 a sewage, but at the end they're putting in a pipeline costing $20 million, and this is the problem. Even in our own hometown, they're spending millions and millions on cleaning the sewage, which you got to understand. Our technology it'll last 36 years. So once you invest in it, the egg and the pendants, they'll last forever. But the cost becomes minuscule, only a few dollars a week or a month to do a big sewage pond. So people have got to start thinking about the taxpayers' money, and so it goes right across the board,
People need to understand one main thing, and that's that the government doesn't work for the people; it works for corporations, and that they're going to have to go to somebody that's a private entity like yourself if they want the truth and get the job done. And that's the end of it, because, I just love all these people that come out with these inventions and go, yeah, I'm talking to Hydro Canada, or I'm talking to the Hydro in the United States, or I'm talking to the Water Commission Board right now, and we're going to get that done. I've never seen anybody get anything done, and it's never going to get done, but they're going to let you go through all the steps and wear yourself down, and then, we've taken a look at it, but we just think we're going to stay here for now. So understand something, everybody. Whether you're talking about a large lake, or whether you're talking about your own health, You're going to have to stay private. You're going to have to get away from the government. You got to stay away from corporations. And that's the way it's going to be. Because you show me a system that was created by the government that's actually out there doing what it's supposed to do, and I'll fall off this chair. Okay. So go ahead, Peter. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that concludes what we had to say right now. If
Yeah.
there was a question period later on,
We're
then
going
we
to.
could come back to them.
Yeah. We'd love to have you back for a Q&A. And what we'll do is when we air the show, we'll let you know. And then we'll have 7 days later, we will then do a Q&A at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it'll be done on YouTube, Facebook, and on Doc of Detox show. And then people will be able to call in, Peter, and they'll be asking live questions. And we'll also be getting people that will be sending questions in on Facebook and Instagram and emailing to us, and we'll be collecting them throughout that week. So we will have a few questions.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good, Marcel.
All right, Peter, thank you very much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
You have a very, very important
I know.
message, and hopefully people will take advantage of the next opportunity to actually, address those questions that they may have to you directly. Again, thank you very much for coming out.
God bless you, Peter.
Yeah.
And everybody out there, thanks for joining us on the Doc of Detox show. And if you like this show, then you can go to docofdetoxshow.com and take a look at all the shows that are coming up and understand something. If you've got questions, you want to come on our Facebook or Instagram, and you want to leave your questions, and every Monday and Friday, we'll answer your questions, whether it's got to do with emotional, nutritional, or deep-spirited questions that have never been answered. We'll do our best to do that, because guess what? We are truly here to serve you and truly here to help you. And if you want to get started, go into the Doc of Detox library. You'll see it right on our at itioh.com, which is our training website, or you can go to docofdetox.com, our clinic. Go into the library, and you've got all the information you need on how to create the perfect day in every way on an emotional and physical level. Get started. You deserve it. God bless, and have a beautiful day.
Bye for now.
If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.